Did you know that one of the most chilling horror movies, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, is based on a true story? The film draws its terrifying inspiration from the real-life case of Anneliese Michel, a young woman from Germany who underwent 67 exorcisms. Her story is more disturbing than anything a horror movie could portray. Anneliese Michel's life began to take a terrifying turn in 1968 when, as a teenager, she experienced her first severe seizure. She was soon diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, a condition that can cause hallucinations, mood disturbances, and even profound religious experiences. Despite receiving medical treatment, including anti-seizure medication, her condition grew worse in ways that defied medical explanation. By 1973, she began to report terrifying visions, hearing voices damning her to hell and seeing demonic faces wherever she looked. As her symptoms worsened, she developed an intense aversion to religious symbols. Crucifixes, prayers, and holy water caused violent reactions. This was no ordinary illness, at least not in the eyes of her devout Catholic family. They believed Anneliese was possessed by demonic forces, especially when she began speaking about demons and claiming they were inside her. Medical treatments had failed her, so her family turned to the church. In 1975, two priests, Ernst Alt and Arnold Renz, received approval from the Catholic Church to perform the rite of exorcism, a rare and ancient practice that had not been officially sanctioned in many years. What followed was a grueling 10-month ordeal of 67 exorcism sessions, each more harrowing than the last. The exorcisms, based on the ancient Rituale Romanum, were performed multiple times a week. During these sessions, Anneliese was subjected to a series of prayers, commands, and rituals designed to expel demons. The priests would recite the Exorcismus Te prayer, invoking the power of Christ to force the demons to leave her body. But instead of freeing her, these rituals seemed to plunge her deeper into a nightmare. Witnesses described her as becoming almost inhuman during the exorcisms. Her voice would change, taking on deep guttural tones that seemed impossible for a 23-year-old woman. She would growl, bark, and scream obscenities in languages she had never learned. She claimed to be possessed by multiple demons, including Lucifer, Judas, Nero, Cain, and even Adolf Hitler. As the priests commanded these entities to leave her, she would contort her body in unnatural ways, twisting her limbs and arching her back with a strength that belied her frail, malnourished state. Her reactions grew more terrifying with each session. She would lash out violently, requiring several people to hold her down. At times, she would bang her head against the floor or walls, injuring herself in the process. Her family and the priests recounted moments where her voice shifted unnervingly from high-pitched screams to a demonic rasp, alternating between a terrified young woman pleading for help and a malevolent force speaking through her. Anneliese would beg for the exorcisms to continue, convinced that only through this battle could she rid herself of the demons. At one point, she was reported to have said, "I want to suffer for the sins of others." The priests believed this was a sign that she was fighting a spiritual war, a battle for her soul. By early 1976, her body was beginning to fail. She refused to eat or drink, convinced that this was part of her battle against the demonic forces. Her weight plummeted, and she became dangerously weak, barely able to stand or walk without help. But still, the exorcisms continued, each one more intense than the last. Her face, once full of life, became gaunt and bruised from self-inflicted injuries and the strain of the violent rituals. The exorcisms often lasted hours, with Anneliese alternating between moments of total despair and horrifying displays of what those present believed were supernatural strength and possession. By July 1976, after months of this spiritual and physical torment, Anneliese Michel died in her home. She was just 23 years old. At the time of her death, she weighed only 68 pounds. She had stopped eating entirely, and her body had deteriorated from the intense strain of the exorcisms and self-starvation. Her final days were filled with horrific suffering. She believed the demons were still with her, but her body could take no more. Anneliese's case remains one of the most terrifying and controversial in modern history. Her exorcisms and subsequent death blur the line between faith and medicine, leaving a disturbing legacy of questions that still linger today. Was she truly possessed, or was she a young woman tragically lost to untreated mental illness? The terrifying recordings and eyewitness accounts of her behavior during the exorcisms continue to haunt those who hear them, casting a dark shadow over the final months of her life. Anneliese Michel's story remains a haunting reminder of the dangers that lie in the space between science, faith, and the unknown. Whatever you believe, her suffering was real, and her case continues to terrify those who encounter the details of what she endured. And there you have it, another mystery brewed to perfection. If you enjoyed sipping on today's tale, don't let the intrigue end here. Hit that subscribe button to keep your mug filled with new mysteries every week. Give this video a like if it got you thinking, and drop a comment below. What's your theory? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you've ever had a mysterious experience of your own, share it with us in the comments. Who knows, it might just be featured in our next brew. Until next time, keep your mugs warm and your minds open, because the truth is always brewing here on the Mystery Mug channel.